Welcome to the Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world. Smaller.
In this week's episode of the Kindness Project, we share the best of the Kindness Project over the years, part 1.
I'm joined by a girl who I can only describe with one word. I just haven't worked out what one yet. It's Charlotte Dames.
And I am joined by the rider of children's bikes, Chris Dames.
Oh, I love a kid's bike. Oh, honestly, genuinely. Riding a kid's bike is one of the things that all adults should do. One thing I would suggest, though...
Don't break it.
Don't actually sit on it, because that's always a bad move. But also, just make it a bike probably designed for a little older than 6, because those style of bikes are not really designed for a 6'3" stocky gentleman like me to ride. But you had to go, Charlotte, didn't you? You had to go Sophie's bike.
Didn't it? Oh, I just pushed it.
Yeah, you just give it a little push, yeah.
Yeah.
And have you ever ridden any other sort of vehicles designed for kids? You ever been on a scooter, or you ever been on
Yeah, when I was younger.
No, I know, when you was a child, I'm talking about more recently.
Well, the boys next door, they had a flicker, and neither of them wanted to get on it. So Mum was like, "You had one when, a couple of years ago," and I was like, "All right, I'll come out and show them." And neither of them wanted to get on, so I got on and started riding up and down the street.
So I when I was writing these introductions, I was trying to work out the best word to describe you, and I just couldn't whittle it down to one word. So I decided that I just haven't worked out that word yet. But the question of the podcast, let's get this out the way really early.
Cool.
If you could remove one word from the English dictionary, so should we do the introduction properly? Question of the podcast.
Can I have a go this time?
Go on then.
Question of the podcast.
So Charlotte left us for a while, and the bloke from the X Factor came in and did that actual introduction. I don't know if you noticed that or not. Question of the podcast, this podcast, is if you could remove one word out of the English language, and I don't want you to include swear words, offensive words, or rude words, what one word would you remove?
What was that one word that was a slang term and they put it in the actual English dictionary?
It's loads.
Oh, I don't know. It's just
They add new slang words to the Oxford English Dictionary every year, because don't they have a little thing on the news where they turn around and go, "Oh, we've added, I don't know, selfies," or "We've added smiley faces," or they add.
there's a bit at there's a bit at the back of some dictionaries, and it's got So hopefully everyone knows the difference between emojis and emoticons. So emojis are the actual...
Educate us, Charlotte.
Emojis are the actual ones that you just click and you send it, and that's it. But emoticons are the one where you use punctuations.
Yeah.
So at the back of some dictionaries, some of the ones at school, they have an emoticon translator.
You're joking.
No, I'm not.
In a paper dictionary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But a lot of apps now, I know Facebook do it, turn emoticons into emojis.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I honestly prefer emoticons. They take much more effort.
Fine. And you like a bit more effort when it comes to your English, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, so unofficial question of the podcast then. So the official question is, what English word would you remove from use?
The emoticon dictionary, yeah.
So you'd get rid of all emoticons?
No, I'd just get rid of the dictionary. Don't see I think emojis and emoticons are quite self-explanatory.
Okay.
I mean, some of them are. But if you just put them in a weird string, they're not...
Yeah.
So sometimes when I get bored, I kind of go into my emoji section and I send my friend a bunch of unicorns.
See,
because she likes unicorns.
See, I love a bit of text, right? I love a bit of tech. I love how technology is changing language
And developing.
and the ways we communicate are changing. One thing, and this is going to make me sound really old, and I'm not, but am I? Oh, difference of opinion between the podcast hosts. But one of the things that worries me a little bit is how you see. I'd write an email and put like probably be over verbose and use sort of more words than I need to.
Yeah.
And actually, the trend is away from that to shorten words, keep it really simple. But I think there's a beauty in
full
well-constructed words, right?
Yeah.
There's beauty in a well-constructed sentence. I mean, like sort of Bram Stoker or Mary Shelley or Edgar Allan Poe or Stephen King even didn't turn around and go, oh no, actually, I'm not going to write a 60,000 word novel. I'll just write it in emoticons and let everybody read it like that. Nobody did that, did they?
No.
They're the finest author. I'm on a bit of a rant now, Charlotte. I'll start talking about Nick Cage in a minute. The finest authors in the world actually know the power of using both simple and complex language to convey their story.
Yeah, I kind of want to be like those kind of people someday. Cause I don't.
Do you think culture's moving in the other direction?
I think, in a way, it's creating its own individual language. But if it's because obviously we've got programming, and that's its own. That's a language in itself.
Yeah.
But we've got the language.
You think the language of communication's changing?
Yeah, obviously, there's always going to be a language of communication that the older generations. Not talking about you, mate.
Oh, thanks, mate.
That the older generations aren't going to
understand or
wrap their head around as easily as the younger generations who have grown into it or have been there when it.
But let me ask you a question, right? As a lover of books and a lover of like Agatha Christie, for example, if Murder on the Orient Express and Then They Were None had smiley faces in, would it make it better? Because I'm thinking no.
I think if it had smiley faces in, it would be less of a serious story. Like,
how about
Murder on the Orient Express, someone gets kidnapped. Oh, smiley face!
Murder on the Orient Express, smiley face, and Then There Were None, unicorn. I mean, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, like you read the poem, and at the bottom there's just an emoticon. It goes, smiley face.
Yeah, smiley face, thumbs up. Skull and crossbones, and then
everyone assumes they're gonna die.
And then that's it. I mean, there is a opportunity to write a murder mystery novel using that language.
Yeah.
So I
you
think,
could write someone's name and just put skull and crossbones, and we'd all assume they were dead.
I tell you what, I wonder if like somebody like Mark Billingham could write something like that. I think he'd be really good at that.
I might give it a crack.
You might give it a go. You like writing murder mystery novels, don't you?
Yeah, I tend to not. Well, I say I tend to not write murder mystery. I tend to write murder novels, but not the mystery element. Like,
gotcha.
People die, but nobody figures out how it happens.
So on that cheerful note, just as a reminder, this is a podcast about kindness. But appreciating all sorts of art, including Gothic, is something that we can all do. However, what we haven't talked about up to yet is how you can get in touch.
Oh, too tight.
So one of the things we want to do is talk about the question of the podcast. So our question of the podcast, as a reminder, if you could remove one word from the English language, what would it be? And you can get in touch with us on Twitter at...
all our kindness.
So we've been talking over the last few weeks about how you pronounce holla. See, I say holla, and then Charlotte says it hola.
I did not say it that low.
Now we're having this dispute around whether it's a silent H or quite a pronunciated H, and maybe you can help us out. Is it hola?
It's not.
Or is it?
It's hola.
Hola.
It's
or is it hola? So
no, you say it too hard. It's like hola. It's like not there, but it's there.
Okay. So you can get in touch with us at HOLA holla, kindness on Twitter. You can email us at holla@thekindnessproject.co.uk, or alternatively, you can visit our website because we've got Facebook groups and show notes and all that sort of stuff on there. Every single one of our podcasts comes with show notes about what we've talked about, links to areas that you might want to understand a bit more about, and just generally loads of useful stuff that will help us share some of the more pertinent kindness stories. But in addition to that, we want your stories of kindness. It's really important that you let us know how kind you are, how kind your communities are, but also individual stories of people we should speak to who are really, really good at thinking of others and being considerate.
Yep.
So we want to hear those stories.
And you can also get in touch with either of us at our individual Twitters. Charlotte J. Dames, Charlotte CHARLOTTE, J. Dames DAEMS.
Alternatively, you can get in touch with me at Chris CHRIS Dames DAEMS. Although I may change it to Holla Chris, but I haven't decided that yet, so use the old one for now.
Don't forget your own name, though.
Don't forget your own name.
Good piece of advice.
Good piece of advice. Regardless of your age, be it 14 or 40, don't forget your own name. It's quite useful remembering your own name.
You might want to wear a name tag around. Just like, yep, that's my name.
At all times, even in bed.
Yep.
Just go, hello, my name is Chris Dames, would be fantastically useful.
And then when you wake up in the morning, it's right there. Oh, I'm Chris Dames.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm not.
And on that rather bizarre note, should we get on with the show?
Yes.
Welcome, my friends, to another episode of the Kindness Project. In my eye line, I've got a lady who is creeping very quietly, but not chopping quietly enough. It's my darling wife, Cassie Dames. Hello, Cassie.
Hi.
And I'm also joined by a girl whose idea of discouragement is tapping you twice and giving you a dirty look. It's Charlotte Dames. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks, mate. I'm joined by a man
By what?
with a podcasting plan. 'Cause he's always got it laid out for us, isn't he? It's Chris Dames. That really went off trail.
I've got my Word document. I've got my questions of the podcast. I've got the audacity. I'm organised. We have now been doing this for 100+ episodes. I should know what I'm doing, shouldn't I? Really? Shouldn't I?
So should I, but don't mean I do.
Yeah,
Turn up with a new random thought every week.
yeah. This week you came along singing Cotton Eye Joe. I mean, why is Cotton Eye Joe got into your head?
You asked me for a question of the podcast, and in my head, the first question that comes up in my head is the two questions from the end of the chorus from Cotton Eye Joe.
Yeah, so if listeners, if you can answer any of the questions from Cotton Eye Joe, where did you come from?
Where did you
Did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe? Answers on a postcard. I mean, they are mysteries, aren't they? Where did Cotton Eye Joe
It
actually
always
come
makes
from?
me wonder, like,
Yeah.
who the hell is Cotton Eye Joe?
Did you almost swear about Cotton Eye Joe? Where the flip is Cotton Eye Joe?
Who is he?
I don't who is he? Who is he? Well, not where is he and where did you come from, but who is he as well?
Who?
What's he all about? What's his agenda?
What is a Cotton Eye Joe?
Who is Joe and why is his one eye made of cotton?
Maybe he's got an eye patch made of cotton.
Maybe. Which brings us on, funnily enough, and this wasn't a intentional link, but
Segue.
This week's question in the podcast is, what would your pirate name be? And maybe your pirate name would be Cotton Eye Joe.
Cotton Eye Jane.
Cotton Eye Jane. I'd be Cotton Eye Alan.
Why not Cotton Eye Chris?
Cotton Eye Chris. That's it. Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Chris? I don't know. No, let's not even go there. So what would your actual... It wouldn't be Cotton Eye Sue or whatever you said. What would your actual pirate name be?
I don't know. I feel like... I don't know. Would I be a pirate or would I be a privateer?
A privateer? What's a privateer?
What's a private? Okay, so they were basically pirates, but legal.
Oh no, that's boring.
No, but basically it was, Queen Elizabeth, she had all these men and they were all trying to impress her because they wanted to be in favour with the Queen, so they used to go and pillage Spanish ships and burn them to pieces.
But that was legal based on English law, right?
And
Because the Queen wanted it.
they used to give them like they used to give the crown a fraction of the money, and in return, none of the other countries could prosecute the pirate ship, the privateer ships.
How about Spain? What would Spain do?
Spain couldn't do anything because they were under English protection. So
Right.
unless they wanted to attack England, which they did eventually try, the Spanish Armada, they couldn't do it. But the Spanish Armada failed because of stuff like the singeing of the King's beard, which was a privateer's doing.
Yeah.
Francis Drake.
You know what privateer did that? I've heard. Cotton Eye Joe.
It was Francis Drake.
No, it wasn't. It was.
We all know it was Francis
They all
Drake.
blamed Francis Drake, but actually it was Cotton
Yeah, it
Eye
was
Joe.
Cotton Eye Joe that went and set the harbours on fire.
Where did you come
Postpone.
from? Where did you go? I went to singe your beard. My name's Cotton Eye Joe. I mean, it's obvious. If people would like to, I mean, there must be a method behind working out what your pirate name is. There must be some sort of
One of those-
pirate name generators online or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've
probably.
never done it, so we are looking forward to hearing your pirate names. But in the meantime, here's how you get in touch with us.
We have a Twitter, at Honor Kindness.
Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
Kindness, I Joe.
Where did you come from? Where did you go? I was acting. I was enacting an act of kindness. My name's Cotton Eye Joe.
We have a Facebook and we're under the Kindness Project. I know, Facebook. Completely revolutionary. We should buy shares.
Probably too late, to be honest. I think we've missed that by about 10 years. Facebook's there, and you can. Should we buy shares in Google? Is it too
late for that?
Too late.
No, I hear they're selling like wildfire.
What's the next revolutionary tech trend we could buy shares in?
Amazon?
No, Amazon's a bit more mature.
Yeah.
I don't know. We don't stay in touch with any of this sort of stuff. We should, because we're quite tech savvy.
Podcast, no. Podcasts don't make any money.
Podcasts are quite old now.
Podcasts don't make money.
Yeah, well, some do. Some are sponsors.
Oh, yeah, like Gimlet Media, they make so much money because they have so many Patreon supporters.
Yeah, well, maybe we should do that. Maybe we should ask for Patreon supporters.
Where would the money go, though?
To charity.
Yeah,
We give it away.
It's not like we need it.
Where would the money go to? Cotton Eye Joe. I want to start a charity called the Cotton Eye Joe Foundation and give all the money to Cotton Eye Joe. And the only reason for the Cotton Eye Joe Foundation is to work out where did he come from, where did he go. I want to do research into Cotton Eye Joe.
No, but what kind of people would you associate with the what kind of people would we be helping with the Cotton Eye Joe? I was going to say religion.
People, the Cotton Eye Joe cult. The people
Would be the first one I started.
The people we'd be helping, if we found out the answer to where would you come from, where did you come from, where did you go, is people like you who wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning going, where did Cotton Eye Joe go?
It wasn't 2, it was 1:32.
Well, who look at their mobiles and go, it's 1:32 in the morning, what am I worried about?
Where the heck is
Cotton Eye
Cotton Eye
Joe? Where's Cotton Eye Joe gone?
No,
Anyway,
you never know. It could be like a charity to find lost family members or something.
called Cotton Eye Joe.
Yeah, where did he come from? Where did he go?
Yeah. Lost people. The Cotton Eye Joe Foundation, so we can find lost people. Where did you come from? Where did you go? Anyway, shall we crack on with the show, Cotton Eye Joe?
Yeah, go on then.
Dave's mentioned some silver linings. Mental health charity The Blurred Line Group has set up the Chit Chat service to provide support for those who are lonely in their homes, particularly those in vulnerable health and the over 70s. It aims to encourage more casual conversations during these isolated times and can also help isolated people with food and household supplies, someone to do their shopping and people to check in on them to make sure they're okay. It's available 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day and is manned by volunteers. If you're in that segment and you are feeling isolated, you can just give them a call. Their number is 0333 002 003 and they're on Twitter at
Chit Chat Britain.
Chit Chat Britain. I like their Twitter handle. It's a good one.
Is that a Twitter handle or an Instagram handle?
I don't know. We'll soon find out. Do you want to do the next one?
It's probably Twitter.
Go on.
Okay. The coastal city of Aarhus. I assume that's how it's...
I only give you the ones that are difficult to pronounce. Do you know that?
No, because I refuse to do them usually.
The coastal city of Aarhus in Denmark
Has launched a new concert series where fans drive up to the venue and remain safely isolated in their cars.
liveforlivemusic.com, and we all need a good laugh to cheer us up at www.nextupcomedy.com, supporting comedians who can't work at the moment by streaming stand-up shows online for a small fee. Comedy stars like Andy Parsons, Ed Byrne, Gina Yashere, Hal Crittenden and Andrew Maxwell are all getting involved, so that sounds really, really good.
And we've been tagged in it again.
And today's silver linings are: staying at home is encouraging bands and musicians all over the world to entertain us online. New lockdown versions of old songs are appearing and making us smile. I hope you're enjoying them too. Now, I don't know about you, but music, I'm really loving. Like, sort of...
I heard you listen to Sleeping at Last this morning.
I know, that I was doing some writing, so that was my sort of just background music. You know what I've been loving as well? Weirdly, because I've been writing over the next couple of days for the Kindness Project book, out, don't know when, probably in a couple of years. You know that rainforest music you get? No, you're not a fan?
No.
I'm loving that at the minute.
Makes me need to use the toilet.
Well, constantly. But yeah, so that rainforest... What do you listen to when you're working, Chris?
Oh, I just ask Alexa to play what I fancy on the day.
Yeah. So the weird thing is, if I'm listening to... The problem is, if I'm listening to music that I'm really into, I get distracted by the music.
Do you?
So I need like something in the background that like is just there. Do you know what I mean? So
We're very different types of working music people.
go on then. What working music have you got?
I get like stuff that I really get into, and I'm sitting there going like this, yeah.
Sorry, why do you work screaming like a banshee? Sorry, you go like that, yeah.
And she screams a high pitch.
All right, okay. Yeah. So what kind of music you're going to go back to 70s rock, aren't you?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with like anything like that.
So go on, what's on your working music playlist?
So like stuff like, I don't know if it's 70s rock, but like the Blue Oyster Cult, is that 70s rock?
Yeah.
Like Kansas and...
Yeah. What's on your working play? What music comes up that you really enjoy, Chris?
Me? Well, I like all the soul stuff, really, Chris, and Tambla Motown.
Oh.
I like so many different music. I love Andrea Bocelli, so I often listen to him. So it's also, I like all music, a bit like you guys, really.
Yeah. So, unofficial question of the podcast number 2 is: what's on your working music playlist? So, when you're working from home, what have you got on your playlist?
I have this really weird study playlist, and it's made up of songs that remind me of things I need to be studying. Well, I don't need to be studying them anymore, obviously, but like I had a playlist and it was all like the Macbeth soundtrack, Jekyll and Hyde musical.
Yeah.
That's a good musical, by the way.
You like a lot of musical.
I like a lot of musicals.
Yeah.
And like it's got like We Didn't Start the Fire, because obviously I was doing history and we did the Cold War. Yeah. So I had Two Tribes and We Didn't Start the Fire.
Two Tribes. Frankie Goes to Hollywood. That is an amazing
and I had
song.
like loads of They Might Be Giants, because they do some science songs that are quite funky and easy to remember some of the stuff for science.
If you didn't know Charlotte was a bit of a geek, you do now.
I thought it was obvious.
So, what I'm going to do, that's Dave Forrest, like Sunday Silver Linings. Thank you for that, and we're looking forward to having Dave on the show next week.
Today's Silver Linings is all about poems. A well-written poem, whether it rhymes or not, can have a huge impact on how we think and feel. Here's a couple I found over the last few days that certainly made me think.
Okay.
What if 2020 is the year we've been waiting for? A year so uncomfortable, so painful, so scary, so raw, so it finally focuses us to grow. Oh, I think that's supposed to say forces. Okay. It finally forces us to grow. A year that screams so loud, finally awakening us from our ignorant slumber. A year we finally accept the need for change, declare change, work for change, become the change. A year we finally band together, instead of pushing each other further apart. 2020 isn't cancelled, but rather the most important year of them all.
I love that. And one of the big things about that is that, and we had this conversation with the guys from kindness.org yesterday, didn't we? Mm-hmm. That pushed together as opposed to apart. And there are some forces in the world that are trying to push us apart. There's no doubt in that. And there are some people who believe the world is a worse place and believe that we need to fight each other to get anything achieved. I don't believe that. No. I believe that actually working together is always going to be better than trying to fight. Because let's be honest, and if we were having a conversation, you talk about advice, if you don't like, trust and respect the person who's trying to explain their point of view, how likely are you to...
Very unlikely.
I haven't finished the question yet.
Take their advice.
How likely are you to eat a cheese sandwich? What was the answer?
Very unlikely. I don't like plain cheese sandwiches.
All right. Pickle? Cucumber?
Maybe.
Okay, an oyster. I know you like oysters. An oyster. But that sense of, working together is something we need to get a bit closer to. And despite what we hear on the news, I've seen amazing examples of kindness during lockdown. It's been brilliant.
Is that poem one you want to read aloud?
It is. I'll wait for you to do the next one. The next one is called When This Is Over.
When this is over, may we never again take for granted a handshake with a stranger, full shelves at the store, conversations with neighbours, a crowded theatre, Friday night out, the taste of communion, a routine checkup, the school rush each morning, coffee with a friend, the stadium roaring, each deep breath, a boring Tuesday, life itself. When this ends, may we find that we have become more like the people we wanted to be, we were called to be, we hope to be, and may we stay that way, better for each other because of the worst.
So that, before you mention the other news, the one that I've been thinking about quite a lot is an old classic that we talked about the other day, because we both quite like poetry, don't we?
Yes.
And do you remember that? Have we talked about it in the podcast before?
Spoken word poetry.
The poetry jam at Covent Garden. That was amazing, wasn't it?
We have to do another one. You have to get involved this time, though.
I will. I'm going to stand up and do some poetry. But my one of my all-time favourite poems, and I think one that's pertinent for now, is a poem called If by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all around you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired of waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise, no fear of that. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build 'em up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on where there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything in it. Which is more? You'll be a man, my son. Clearly that end doesn't work when I'm talking to you. You will be a woman, my daughter. But that I love. That is probably one of my favourite poems, apart from the quite depressing World War One poetry I like Wilfred Owen, but probably not appropriate for the Kindness Project.
I thought you were going to mention the poem about the man who was drowning. When you said depressing, I was like...
Spike Milligan is always welcome on the Kindness Project. We might bring a bit of Spike Milligan poetry into our lives in a future edition. Do you want to carry on with Dave Silver Linings?
Just interrupted me with your own poem. I'm just not miffed. No.
Sorry. Okay. Sub question of the podcast. What's your favourite poem? That might be our next question of the podcast.
Okay. The roaming poet. That question. I've just been.
Oh, sorry. The monitor. The podcast monitors come along. Go on.
The Rhyming Poets have launched Tell a Poem Tuesday to encourage people to share a poem with someone else over the phone. The charity Save the Children is releasing poems written by children as we approach 3 months since the pandemic was officially announced. There's today's one as well, but have we got time for today's one, Dad?
Sorry. I'm just seeing a little clip from somebody I used to know. Hello, Brian. Thanks for making a comment. I do remember you actually. I hope you're doing well. But yeah, so Dave Forrest Silver Linings.
Yes,
Do you want to carry on?
Yes. Kenton Lee, founder of Because International, an organisation dedicated to the idea of changing the world through practical compassion, has invented the shoe that grows. It's made from hard-wearing material and can expand by up to 5 sizes. Children in the poorest parts of the world often don't have footwear, and this is changing their lives.
Love it.
Vienna is set to reward those who get around the city on foot.
So can we just give them a bit of a shout out, because that idea is amazing.
Yeah.
Right, so if you're watching, mate, can we try and get the guys from Because International on the podcast? Should we do that?
Yep, okay. Vienna is set to reward those who get around the city on foot, by bicycle or by public transport instead of using their cars. The Austrian
capital. You're I think you're confusing strudel with didgeridoos. You're confusing boomerangs with baked goods.
Sorry, mate.
I don't know what are the Austrians famous for.
I don't know. The Austrian capital is trialling a smartphone app that uses motion tracking to measure the distance covered and the CO2 saving made.
Yeah.
When users have saved 20 kilograms of CO2, the equivalent of about 2 weeks of walking, cycling, or using public transport, they receive 1 culture token. Oh, my socks are falling apart. That's it. We're done.
Tokens can be exchanged for free tickets to cultural venues.
Oh, it does say that.
That is. I really like the idea of. Particularly cities rewarding people for more ethical environmental behaviour.
Yes,
it's really good.
Yes.
So I know you talk a lot about the power of not only having an amazing website with bees on. Russ, are you listening? You talk about the power of storytelling quite a lot. So tell me about how you think storytelling is important in terms of doing good work.
Well, I think that storytelling stems from journaling. So, having so many emotions myself, I had to let those emotions out and, out of my head and on paper. And so I've been journaling all my life. And so it's interesting how, what I feel today, not necessarily is what I felt a few, months before, or a few years before, because we're evolving. So I decided to put together, my journals, of evolution and really see what I could come up as far as telling stories. And, I decided, like I said, I never was a social media person. I always did work behind the scenes because I never really cared about, letting people know what I was doing. But, there was a point where I decided, wow, I've been doing so much work nonprofit wise that I think it will be really cool to put together all of my experiences and start telling stories. And so I started writing articles. These articles have been published, and I started writing books too. So I'm completing my 3rd book. yeah, and then I have a couple of agents interested. I just attended the Writers Digest Pitch Slam in New York, the virtual thing, obviously, and so basically, I decided to tell stories about my experiences around, with not just with working with nonprofits.
And that actually, I think that's really important, because the more stories we can get out there of people doing amazing work in the world, it's one of the reasons we run the podcast. One of the reasons we run it is because I think if we can share more stories of people doing positive things, it sort of then counteracts all the negative stuff you hear, doesn't it? And I think that's quite important.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that we, especially going through certain situations like traveling to third world countries or impoverished countries, let's put it this way, because in a lot of ways I think we are more third world than they are. But anyway, I think that it's important to really show what a lot of these people have done to come out of their darkness, how they've coped. And this is what my books are about. They're about tales of transformation,
journey
from around the world. And so one book, for instance, is on my experience with the orphanage, working at the orphanage. The other one is a book on my experience with what I created after here in Sicily. Another book is going to be on the power of sponsorship, because, for instance, I've been sponsoring 40 kids over 17 years with Plan USA. And I was thinking, well, why not talk to Plan USA and see if they want to write a book together on how sponsorship has changed the lives of the previously sponsored.
I love that idea. Yeah, because you can tell the stories of the impact of that sponsorship using the individuals who have been sponsored. So so we want to go on to the next question, but Charlotte has got a college lesson in about 10 minutes, so she's going to need to leave the interview.
Okay.
Mic drop. Charlotte out.
Charlotte, it was very nice meeting you.
Do you want to do the next question before you go?
Okay, I'm going to ask the next question.
It's not about websites or bees, is it?
Oh, it should be.
Okay.
Okay, so you've already spoken about how you started doing your non-profit work with people, but could you tell us about how you got into doing non-profit work with animals?
Yeah. Again, even that is something that stems from the empathy and all of that. So it's almost like it's not just, I've never just had empathy towards people. It's like towards anything that is really living, like any living creature. So, and I found myself one year in, vacationing in Sicily, and Sicily is a place where the concentration of strays ranks probably as the highest in Europe. So you have Romania, you have Sicily. People come here for the beauty, for the food, for the beaches, the archaeology and everything, but they don't really see what is going on. And, it's almost like I see, I go beyond like what, just the
I think that's important, isn't it? That the point you made, like sort of you could go to all of these countries and just see what the tourists see, but you need to sort of dig a bit deeper to understand what's actually going on for the humans that live there and the animals.
Yeah, and I feel that in a way the world is really ruled by people, but we're also sharing this beautiful earth with billions of animals, and I think 100%. They don't have a voice. It's almost like giving voice to the voiceless, and so I said, well, I had already sold most of my possessions, and so I said, well, how about I invest and do this, and so my idea is to really. So I opened an animal sanctuary, and in Sicily, and it was a culmination of working with many different places, organizations, and I thought, well, why not open my own? And
when was that? When was that opened?
So we opened last year, and obviously COVID hit this year in February. So it's been very challenging, but we've been moving forward. Nonetheless, we've been working with a consultant we're in touch with foundations worldwide, and I've written articles. I wrote a book on this experience, and so I've been on a couple of podcasts, and so it's been challenging because I noticed that when people used to donate, previously, the previous years, this year it's been very much different. It's been more.
It's interesting because we do some charity work locally, and I speak to loads of charities through trying to tell their stories on the podcast. And the challenge you've got for a lot of charities at the minute is typically their fundraising may come from events, and there's just been no events, is there? It's just been a different environment.
Well, and that's the other thing. You cannot have events, so you cannot host an event of any sorts. And then we also have, we're on 17 acres, and we have a beautiful property that, we did rent out a bit to tourists this year, but that was the whole point to, with all the proceeds would go
back
to sterilizing the animals, the strays. But
what animals have you got on the site?
So at the sanctuary right now, we have donkeys, we have ostrich that just laid an egg yesterday, which was ridiculously huge, and we have many birds, and we have we're having another donkey coming, and there's a possibility to have more to rescue 11 horses from the slaughterhouse, but the problem is they cannot transport the horses right now because we're stuck in our own towns. You cannot leave your town unless it's a.
So are these animals just from Sicily or from Italy more generally, or where do you rescue animals from?
So we rescue the animals locally, and obviously they're all locally rescued. And then again, the proceeds from the farmhouse, so the Airbnb and the renting and the we're also planning on having a petting farm and having a horse therapy center. All the proceeds will go to the sterilizations of the local strays, but they're all local animals because there's an overpopulation of all sorts of animals. And so, but it's also to raise the awareness because, again, it's a beautiful area. We're in an area with 8 different UNESCO sites. It's incredibly beautiful.
I've never been to Sicily. I've done a lot of Italy.
Really?
But I've never been to Sicily. Yeah. Is that? I mean, is that where you're from originally, or is it?
No, I'm originally from Milan.
Milan, so you said that. Yeah.
But I love it. I've always loved the South more because I love warmer temperatures. And again, my background is in archaeology, so there's a lot of archaeology down here. Yeah. And people are warmer. People are really, they're jolly and happy. It's just a different type of.
To be honest, a warmer temperature sounds ideal right now. I'm just outside cold London, so yeah, Sicily sounds interesting. Charlotte's written the next question, but I want to change it a little bit. Charlotte had a question about, because of your travel, we wanted to understand where you felt was the most beautiful. But I actually think there's a bit more of an interesting question underlying that. And feel free to answer both or either.
Okay.
Number one, where's the most beautiful place you visited? But where's the place you visited that allowed you to learn the most about yourself?
Wow, that's a great question.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, probably the most beautiful place, the most unusually beautiful place that I've seen is Well, all of Africa. I love Africa. I've always been drawn to Africa. And when I first visited, I was like, oh, wow, amazing. Kenya is amazing. Zimbabwe is amazing. Tons of beautiful places down there. The most beautifully unique place, I would say, was Namibia, which is northwest of South Africa. And it was just incredibly beautiful. I really, really loved it. They have the tallest sand dunes in the world, and that we climbed up, and it was just incredibly beautiful. And then there have been many places that have taught me a lot about myself. I would say Los Angeles has taught me a lot about myself, what I want and what I don't want.
Yeah. Sometimes being in a place isn't about what you want. It's about realizing that you don't belong there, right?
Yes. And I kind of felt, I just lived there for a little under 2 years. And then I lived in Hollywood, and then a little bit also in near the coast. But it did not resonate with me at all. And I felt like lying in a cage I just wanted to get out. So it really taught me a lot about myself, about what counts in life, what is important, human connection, because I never felt human connection in many places, not just LA, but many places in the US and a lot of places in Europe as well.
Why do you think that is?
Too much, I would say there's too much stress on the superficial, too much stress on what I own, what I have, and without really understanding and realizing that it's not something that you're going to bring with you, one day. And it's not necessarily, I'm not saying that money isn't important. It is, because, if you want to, it's something that, helps us to move forward, and, obviously, but it shouldn't be the priority.
100%. I mean, it's an interesting one, because my day job is a financial advisor. I run a financial planning business, and a lot of our conversations with our clients are money is a tool to allow you to do stuff, but it doesn't make you happy. And what you should be doing is focusing on using the money as a tool to live the life that's most meaningful for you.
Yeah, exactly.
If I'm honest, your story is a really good example of that, isn't it? You've sold up. You've said, this isn't making me happy anymore. I need to find what really is going to drive and motivate me, and you've done it.
Yeah. And I really think that, it's not just using the money for yourself. If you have the money, or if you have a little bit of resources, it's about
other people.
It's about sharing, and it's about, helping those who cannot help themselves, giving voice to those who don't have any voice. And
there's a really good book. I don't know if you've read it, but I'd certainly recommend it. It's called Happy Money. And it talks about the uses, and it's written by a social psychologist, but it talks about how you could potentially use your money to make you happier. Right. And one of the things that she genuinely, based on research, recommends people do is just same as you've done, consider giving it away to make yourself happier. And the experiment she did was a really interesting one. So she stood out in the streets of, I can't remember what city it was. I was thinking it might have been Chicago she's based, but stood out on the streets of Chicago and handed out Starbucks cards and said, like, go and get yourself, it's only like $5 or whatever, but go and get yourself a coffee. Or you can choose to give it, like, get a coffee and give it to somebody else. And then tested how happy people felt after just doing that. And the people who decided to buy something for somebody else were happier than the ones who bought the coffee for themselves. It's an interesting experiment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a completely different type of happy. It's a happy that is lasting. It's not just something, when you're buying, for instance, a phone, buy a cell phone, it lasts a couple of years, and you buy a new one, and then you buy another one. And then whereas when you do something this meaningful, not only you're doing it for them, you also create a relationship with them that lasts forever. And And that's what is really that different type of beautiful.
Yeah, I love it.
And for instance, even at the orphanage, I made friends with one of the older kids, and he was 21 at the time, no, 20 at the time, and I helped him to go to college. And so he just graduated, and he's getting his diploma next month. And I paid for his college. He's an electrical engineer right now, and he grew up in an orphanage. So I have an amazing relationship with him, and that makes me so happy. I wake up in the morning, I'm like, because he's happy.
Changed his life. Yeah.
He calls me on WhatsApp, and he just said yesterday, "Can I call you mom?" I said, "For sure." I'm so happy that you're happy. And but I also wanted to add one thing. I lost my son, my own son last year, and so I decided to dedicate the sanctuary to him, because I feel that power of transformation. Like, anything really negative can be transformed, because I've seen it in many places from all over the world. And I decided to do the same thing. I'm like, I'm not going to be taken over by grief, because grief, yes, you have to go through it, but it doesn't have to last forever. Especially, you have the power to transform it. And so I decided to dedicate it to him. And yes, he's not here in the physical anymore, but I feel him in the work that I do. And it's powerful. It's just so powerful.
You know what's interesting, Laura? And again, we've spoken to a number of people on the podcast, and certainly I've spoken to people who run charities where the good work they've done has come from a sort of adversity in their life, and a situation where on the surface could make you upset or angry or annoyed, and they've turned it into something really positive. So what do you think that takes? Because not everybody can do that. What do you think that takes?
Well, I don't know if you know the 5 stages of grief by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Okay. So her colleague, I can't remember his name, but he's the authority on grief. He asked her family if he could add the 6th point, which is finding meaning. So the first 5 points are about, going through the shock, going through the anger, going through all these. And then there's the final one is acceptance. Okay. And that's the 5th point. He came up with the 6th point, which is meaning, finding meaning through adversity. And
I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at, because I see that, nothing lasts forever in the physical, but I think that if we look at it like from a standpoint of love in action, compassion in action, we can all do something. It doesn't have to be anything huge. It doesn't take opening a sanctuary or working with an orphanage, but it takes, opening your eyes, speaking up for what you think is right, and really be there. It doesn't need to be big. Anybody can do it. And you have to start from where you are. You don't have to start big, something, but just do something, because
that's important.
I feel that the world is at a point where we all need to do something, and it doesn't need to be ginormous or nothing extravagant, but depending on your own means. If you're able to do something that is meaningful, do it by all means, and don't wait, because there's no specific perfect moment. Just do it. Just make up your mind and do it.
Just do one positive thing. If you did one tiny positive thing every day, and we all did that, essentially the world could be a different place, couldn't it?
Yeah, and then it's a domino effect, because she did that I can do this, and then
exactly. But that goes back to your point, doesn't it? That importance of telling stories, and sharing the fact that there are people out there doing positive stuff. That's part of the reason it's so important. I know my positive action for today is going to be asking Russ to turn the website yellow. Is that all right, Russ? He's still not answering, Laura. He's still not answering.
He doesn't want to answer that one.
What so you've told me a couple of stories about the work you've done. Certainly the one about the gentleman who qualified for college and now he's got a trade and a profession is amazing. Tell me one more story that best describes the work you do.
Well, I think that let's see. When I worked with Mama John. Mama John was the person who founded the orphanage in Kenya. That was an incredible story because she started with absolutely no money, and she was living in Nairobi at the time, and I think it was maybe 20 years ago or 25 years ago. I have to go back and look at the date, but so she was living in Nairobi at the time, and she was living near the slums in Nairobi, which I believe are the biggest in Africa. Something like 1.5 million people live there in appalling conditions. And so she had a small house, and she decided to start adopting one child from the slums, and then another one, and then another one. And then soon enough, she realized that she needed to do something bigger. And so, because it was overwhelming for her too, not only because she didn't have the money to do it, but because she had all this empathy like I do. And so she started asking, tourists and foreigners and local authorities if they could sponsor her to create a home for these kids. And then, soon enough, she had this building that, she raised the money to build the structure that eventually would hold the what we call an orphanage, and it's really a children's home. And little by little, she ended up adopting more than 130 of them. And I met with her, the only time I met with her, I was 2.5 years ago, and she was an amazing person. She said, never, ever, ever, doubt what you're doing if it comes out of love. If you're a loving person and you're determined to make it happen, it'll happen. Yeah. And just have faith. Well, she was very religious. I'm not a religious person, but I believe in spirit. I believe in something. I believe in being guided, and it worked. And so, and little by little,
it's interesting. Yeah. It's that you know what, I don't think it matters whether, because I'm not religious either, and I'm not particularly spiritual, but I believe that regardless of where those good intentions come from,
right,
making a positive change in the world is the important thing.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And again, you don't have to start big. You start from where you are. Yeah. And we've all pressed the pause button right now. So we have more time to really think and be with ourselves and really say, hey, what is important? What is not important anymore? Where do I want to make a change? And obviously, there's no opportunities or many opportunities to travel at this point in time, but we can still do a lot. We can, create a fundraiser, or we can, go on Kiva, for instance, which is a lending platform. We can sponsor a child through Plan USA or any of these. I've been working with them for a long time. So, but there's so many opportunities. You can volunteer at a local shelter. You can volunteer with elderly people. There's so many different things you can do, but it's mainly about creating relationships. To build a relationship with yourself and to build a relationship with another human being or another suffering creature that needs you, someone who needs you.
I tell you what's interesting, Laura. I mean, I think you're right, and we spoke a little bit before about organisations who do good struggling during 2020 because of what's going on, and that's certainly true. But what I've also noticed is COVID also sort of highlighting the people's how kind people can be. In the UK, we there was sort of hundreds of thousands of people who volunteered to be a volunteer to help the elderly, and we went out and clapped every Thursday for the key workers. And
That's amazing.
it's interesting how not only certainly it's been disruptive for a lot of organisations, but also it's, as you said, it's been a bit of a time to reset and reflect this period, hasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and it's again, it's a reflection on who you are, on your values, on on your life. It's kind of like you can review your life and see, hey, what do I need to change from now on? What do I want to keep from now on?
100%.
And so, and it's interesting because I think it's almost like a much needed period. I know it's destructive in a lot of ways, but it's also constructive in other ways. And we kind of have to look at the silver lining there.
One thing I wanted to talk to you about. Talk to me a little bit about what the future looks like, both for your work and your sort of charity work, but also for the sanctuary.
So the sanctuary is something that we set up mainly to spread the awareness of what is going on with the overpopulation of stray animals, how people treat animals, and how mainly it's about animal welfare, but it's also about creating. We want to create an educational center, which has already been approved by Global Giving, which is the largest fundraising platform in the world, to bring in, to create an interaction between children and animals, because it's really important to educate children and really because it all stems from them. So, and then we want to recreate the values of the past. So we want to create courses where people will be able to, for instance, work on the loom, or how to make pasta, how to make cheese, how to make, work in the field, creating your organic cultivation, your organic, for instance, piece of land. We have all sorts of different things that we want to do, but it's mainly based on educating, and we'll also have a petting farm, which we're building right now. And it's all about having children interact with the animals, but also having, just spreading the awareness, mainly, not just here locally, but, we want to become a model for other places where they have the same issues. And again, the proceeds from all of our initiatives will go towards the sterilization of the millions of, I'm saying millions.
The other thing I was going to.
And so it sounds like a very ambitious project, but we've already done a lot of work despite COVID this year. So
but it's as you say, it's all incremental steps, isn't it? Moving towards that big goal. It sounds amazing, and I think when I make my trip to Sicily, I'm going to need to make sure that we come and see you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about where our audience can find out a bit more about you.
Okay, so I have the sanctuary's website, which is Rifugio Isola del Sole. It means refuge island of the sun, because Sicily is called the island of the sun. Yeah. But it's Rifugio, RIFUGIO, ISOLADELSOLE.com. So rifugioisoladelsole.com, or my author website, which is lauraformentini.com.
And can I just say, what a handsome website it is. I don't know if I've mentioned that already. It's really nice, Russ. Are you listening, Russ? You know what? I think he's going to make himself a cup of tea, Laura, because he's just...
I'm listening. And I'm not impressed.
He's here. What are your thoughts about turning the website yellow, Russ? Maybe a good idea?
Saying, why don't I put a couple of beads on the logo and see if you notice?
See, Laura, that's my positive change for the day. That's my small incremental step.
There we go.
Done there.
Great. Yeah, it's again, it's an area where there's a lot of beauty, lots of UNESCO sites. The beaches are phenomenal. We're at the southernmost portion of not just Sicily but Italy, so we're very, very south. And so
you're the football at the end of the boot. When I was at school, learning geography, that's how I remember. Is that right? Sicily's like the sort of football at the end, isn't it?
Well, see, you have the boot, you have the heel, but we're not there. It's almost like the heel. I mean, the boot is kicking 2 stones, and then it's the first stone that's Sicily. And
what's the other stone? What's the other island?
The other island is Sardinia.
Sardinia, right? Okay, fair enough.
So, but it's very, it's the southernmost portion, and if you can take, the coast of Africa is on the other side. So that's where we are, and it's, the weather's beautiful, and the winters are super mild. And so again, we had one rainy day yesterday, but up until the day before yesterday, it was like super sunny, and we were out in our t-shirts and shorts. And
thanks, Laura. I really need that in cold London.
You're welcome to come and visit anytime.
Thank you. Yes. So thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and hearing about your amazing work. I'm sure that when the world opens up again, we'll make a little trip over there, and I'd certainly encourage all our listeners to take a look at Laura's work.
Thank you so much, guys. And hopefully the weather will be nice for you again.
Thanks, Laura. Right, that was brilliant. Right, bye. You've got enough there, mate.
Thank you.
But it's the end now.
It's the end of another podcast. At the end, it's never truly the end. It's the end. There's always a beginning of something.
Now, is this a Reader's Digest joke? It is a Reader's Digest joke. Okay. So we can expect a certain standard. Are you not making up your own jokes this week?
Well, the last one sort of came to me on the fly. And I don't know if it's noticeable on the recording, but I had a little chuckle to myself right when I came up to it.
You haven't got a joke about bagels and curry?
No.
Unless you can think of a bagels and curry joke on the fly, Russ. We're not doing a bagels and curry joke. Go on then. Just remind you, it's a podcast and we're recording live.
Yep.
So what's the joke?
One time, my father came home and found me in front of a roaring fire. That made my father very mad, as we didn't have a fireplace.
It's quite good. On that note, ladies and gents, have a lovely day, and we will see you on the Kindness Project soon.
Have a nice day.
Have a nice day. Bye.